The galaxy was wide and full of countless stars, but even in such endless space there was silence that no one could explain. That silence came from one small blue planet, a world the Galactic Council had called again and again. They sent summons written in every known language of the stars. They sent messages wrapped in light, in sound, in mathematics, but Earth never answered. Other civilizations obeyed the Council. Some came with fear, some came with pride, and some came only to survive. All species knew that to ignore the Council was dangerous, even foolish, yet Earth never sent a single voice. At first the galaxy laughed. They thought humans were primitive, too weak to understand. The first summons had been sent 100 years ago, a simple request for Earth to send representatives. No reply. The second summons came 20 years later, carrying warnings of punishment. Still no reply. Soon Earth's silence became a puzzle that spread across the stars. On distant worlds, children whispered about the strange species that never spoke. Traders told stories in smoky stations. The humans pretend not to hear. Maybe they are afraid. Others argued, no, maybe they are too proud. Maybe they believe themselves above the Council. The rumors grew larger than the truth, because no one knew the truth. Inside the Council chambers, the leaders of great empires gathered in frustration. Some slammed their claws against the floor. Some hissed or shouted with voices shaped by strange mouths. They demanded action. Earth mocks us, said one. They think themselves better than all the galaxy. Another voice cut through the noise, or perhaps they prepare for something we do not see. That thought chilled the chamber, but most dismissed it quickly. After all, what could one small planet do? The galaxy was full of ancient powers. Worlds that had stood for thousands of years. Fleets that could cover a star. Armies that could burn continents. How could Earth, young and small, hope to resist? And yet, in the quiet of their hearts, some leaders remembered the history of humanity. They remembered how quickly humans had grown, how they leaped from fire to machines, from machines to sky, and from sky to space in less than a blink of galactic time. The speed of that growth frightened those who paid attention, but most of the Council laughed and looked away. Still, the summons continued. Each new message carried sharper words, clearer demands, louder threats, but Earth stayed silent. Not one diplomat, not one transmission, not one answer came. This silence began to feel less like weakness and more like choice. The galaxy grew restless. In markets above red suns, in palaces under golden skies, aliens asked the same question: why do humans not answer? Some said Earth was dead, destroyed by its own wars. Some said they had turned inward, lost in madness. Some whispered darker things, that Earth was listening, watching, waiting for the right moment to step forward. In secret, a few civilizations sent spies. They sent ships close to Earth, wrapped in stealth and shadow, but those ships never returned. The reports that did reach the Council were broken and unclear. Words like shadows, movement, hidden weapons appeared, but nothing could be proven. Fear began to creep into the Council halls, though no one wished to admit it. More meetings were called. More voices were raised. One leader demanded an attack, crush them before they become a threat. Another hissed, attack them? And risk what we do not understand. No, better to wait. The arguments stretched on for years, but Earth never joined them. To the galaxy, this silence was unbearable. To Earth, it was deliberate. The humans knew of the summons. They heard every word, every demand, every threat, but they chose not to speak. They built in silence. They watched in silence. And as the stars argued, as the Council grew angry, Earth prepared. For what? No one knew. But in the deep black above the blue planet, shadows began to move. The galaxy had called Earth again and again, but Earth's answer had not yet come. And when it did, it would not be in words. It would be something far greater, something the galaxy was not ready to face. The Council chamber was carved into the heart of a hollowed asteroid, a place older than most civilizations in the galaxy, and its walls had seen empires rise and fall. Now those same walls shook with noise as voices of dozens of species filled the great hall, anger burning in every word. The cause of this anger was not war, not famine, not rebellion, it was Earth. For more than a century the humans had ignored every summons, every demand, every threat, and the patience of the council had run thin. A tall scaled being slammed his fist against the table, the sound echoing like thunder. "This cannot continue," he hissed. "No world may defy the council without consequence. If we allow humans to mock us, others will follow." His words were met with growls, screeches, and low hums from other representatives. One feathered emissary spread her wings wide and cried, "Crush them now! Send fleets! Show the galaxy that silence is death." Others nodded, their eyes burning with pride and fear. But not all agreed. A gray-skinned elder, with eyes that seemed to see too much, raised his slow voice. "We are hasty. Do you not wonder why Earth has remained silent? We call, they ignore, yet they live. Spies vanish. Ships disappear. Is this weakness, or warning?" The chamber grew quiet for a heartbeat, but then another leader barked in laughter. "Humans are primitives. They fight among themselves, they poison their own world. You fear ghosts where there are none." More voices rose, some for attack, some for patience. The council, which claimed to guide the galaxy with wisdom, now looked like a nest of predators fighting over prey. Outside the chamber, whispers spread among assistants and servants. Even they spoke of Earth, their voices low, their faces tense. Why do the humans not answer? What are they hiding? No one had an answer, and that silence only made fear grow. Reports from watchers near the solar system painted strange pictures. Some said the humans built stations larger than moons. Some claimed they saw shadows moving where no ships should exist. Others said nothing at all, for their transmissions cut off halfway, as if swallowed by the void. The council did not speak of these rumors in public, but the leaders knew, and their anger was mixed with unease. Still, pride is stronger than fear for many rulers. One massive being, a warlord from the southern rim, roared across the hall. "I will not wait. If the council is too weak, my fleets will march. Earth will kneel, or it will burn." His challenge hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. Some cheered, eager for blood, but others shrank back, uneasy at his certainty. Then a smaller, soft-spoken voice spoke, and the entire hall leaned closer. It belonged to a crystalline envoy, her body glowing faintly with inner light. "Think," she whispered. "Every empire answers when summoned. Every empire fears this chamber. Only Earth does not. Why? Either they are fools, or they are stronger than we dream. Which do you believe?" Her words spread like ice water through the room. The warlord growled but did not reply. The truth was too sharp. For decades, the council had seen humanity rise faster than any species before them. In only a few centuries they had gone from riding horses to crossing stars. They had fought endless wars, yes, but they had also survived them, adapted to them, learned from them. And though the council sent no aid, humanity built alone, stronger with each generation. Some remembered old reports of human soldiers, how they fought even when outnumbered, how they pushed beyond limits thought impossible. Some remembered the human eyes, eyes that burned with stubborn will. The council did not want to admit it, but inside, many feared that Earth's silence was not carelessness, but confidence. And still the debates raged on. Some shouted for peace, some for war, some for waiting, but all agreed on one thing: the humans could not be ignored forever. The galaxy was watching. The people of distant worlds demanded action, demanded proof that the council was still strong. The leaders knew that delay made them look weak, yet a wrong move could bring disaster. That night, after the chamber emptied, a few rulers stayed behind in secret. They spoke in low voices, away from recorders. One asked the question none dared in public: what if Earth does not come to us because it does not need us? Silence followed, heavy and dark. No one could answer. And far away, on a small blue planet circling a yellow star, humanity continued its silence, building, waiting, watching. The council's anger burned hotter each day, but beneath that anger was something more dangerous, something none would admit aloud: fear. The galaxy was vast but restless, and every corner of it seemed to lean toward one small blue world that refused to answer. Years passed after the last angry meeting of the council, but still Earth sent no message, no word, no sign of respect or surrender. Yet silence did not calm the galaxy, it only made the tension worse. Traders whispered in the dark halls of starports, telling stories of human secrets. On frozen moons and burning desert worlds, ordinary citizens repeated rumors like fire spreading through dry grass. Some said the humans were already dead, destroyed by their own weapons before they could ever reach the stars. Others laughed at that, saying no, Earth was alive and watching, waiting with hidden power. Fearful voices swore they saw shadows in human space, strange movements that did not match civilian ships. Few had proof, but no one needed proof anymore because fear itself was enough to change the galaxy. The great empires began to move. Fleets were ordered closer to Earth, not for attack, at least not yet, but to prepare. Giant ships with claws of steel and cannons the size of towers drifted at the edge of human territory, their eyes always on the small system called Sol. Worlds that had once ignored Earth now watched every small report, searching for signs, searching for answers, but always finding nothing but silence. That silence became a wound inside the minds of the Council, and with every year it cut deeper. The younger species of the galaxy, those who looked to the Council for guidance, grew impatient. If the humans ignore you, why should we obey? They asked. If the Council cannot make Earth kneel, perhaps the Council is weak. These words spread like poison, and some rulers began to panic. They needed humanity to answer, one way or another, or their power would crumble. Yet still Earth was quiet. Inside human space, no diplomats came, no messages were sent. Only watchful satellites and silent stations floated in orbit, like eyes staring outward but never blinking. The Council increased their spies, sending ships wrapped in stealth, sending agents with false faces, but none returned with clear truth. The ones who came back alive whispered of vast structures in orbit, of strange weapons glowing in the dark, of fleets hidden in shadow. Most dismissed these as fear-born tales, yet even the bravest rulers felt unease when the reports landed on their tables. The galaxy waited, but the waiting itself was unbearable. Some empires made plans for war, drawing maps of Earth system, counting possible losses, but when they imagined facing a species that had survived endless wars on their own planet, the numbers never gave comfort. Other empires chose caution, whispering that it was better to leave humans alone until they spoke. But patience in politics is short, and pressure grew like fire in a storm. Ordinary beings, the millions who lived far from Earth, kept asking the same questions. When will humans answer? What are they hiding? Why do they not fear the Council? The mystery became a shadow that touched every mind, from kings on thrones of crystal to workers in factories under red suns. And still, Earth said nothing. That silence was no longer weakness. It felt like control, like a hand on the throat of the galaxy without ever touching it. The Council met again and again, each session louder than the last, yet no decision satisfied everyone. Some wanted to strike now before humanity grew stronger, others wanted to wait and see. Neither side was at peace, and so the arguments continued, stretching across years like an endless echo. Meanwhile, at the edges of human space, strange signals flickered and vanished, shadows moved and then disappeared, and whole scout ships were lost without trace. The waiting turned into fear, and fear turned into dread, and dread turned into silence even deeper than Earth's. For all their power, all their fleets, all their armies, the galaxy realized something no one dared to say aloud. Perhaps they were not waiting for Earth, perhaps Earth was waiting for them. The first sign came without warning, a shadow across the dark that no one could explain. 4 years the galaxy had waited, for years it had wondered, and then one night the sensors of a patrol ship near the Sol system caught something strange. At first the crew thought it was an error, a flicker of light, a broken reading, but then the shapes appeared again and again, moving with purpose. They were large, too large to be simple stations, too steady to be drifting rocks, and too many to be accidents. The captain of the patrol ship froze as the screens filled with silhouettes, long and sharp, silent and cold. They did not broadcast signals, they did not send warnings, they did not speak at all. They just moved in silence, slow and deliberate, as if they owned the space they crossed. The crew whispered among themselves, voices shaking. Are those ships? Human ships. But the readings were clear. The shadows were vessels, and they were not few. The patrol ship sent reports, the reports raced across the stars, and within days the council was in chaos. For generations the humans had been silent, and now their silence broke not with words but with shadows of war. In secret rooms, leaders stared at grainy images, ships black as night against the glow of Earth's sun. No banners, no names, no signals, but their meaning was clear. They were warships, hundreds of them, maybe more. Some council members laughed in denial, saying it was impossible, humans could not build such fleets alone. Others grew pale, knowing that silence had been hiding far more than anyone had guessed. Arguments erupted once again, some demanding immediate attack before more shadows appeared, others warning that it was already too late. The galaxy beyond the council chamber felt the change at once. Traders whispered louder, citizens trembled, and stories spread like wildfire. The humans are ready, they said. The humans have been waiting for this moment. On cold mining colonies, workers paused to look up at distant stars, wondering if human ships were already moving toward them. In glittering palaces, rulers sat restless on their thrones, trying to imagine what kind of weapons humanity had forged in the silence. The council tried to calm the galaxy, but every new report made calm impossible. Each day brought news of more movement near Earth, more signals of ships too disciplined to be civilians. Fleets of other empires moved closer in response, their weapons armed, their crews nervous, but none dared fire the first shot. Fear was thicker than courage, and silence heavier than action. The shadows of the warships grew clearer as scouts risked closer approaches. Some scouts returned with shaky recordings, showing massive vessels rising from orbit, their armor gleaming like black glass. Others never returned at all, swallowed by the darkness that hung around Earth like a warning. The council debated endlessly, but the truth pressed harder each day. Humanity had not ignored the summons out of fear or weakness. Humanity had ignored them because it had no need for them. Every year of silence had been years of building, years of planning, years of preparing. And now the first shadow had become many shadows, and those shadows darkened the very stars above Earth. In the streets of alien cities, children who once laughed at stories of humans now asked their parents in frightened whispers, "Will they come for us?" No one could answer, not even the council. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy felt powerless. The mighty fleets of old empires waited at the edge of human space, but even they hesitated to move forward. Something about those ships, something about their silence, made every commander doubt. They looked like predators not yet hungry, waiting for the perfect moment. And so the galaxy waited too, holding its breath, every eye turned toward Earth. The humans had finally spoken, but their voice was not sound, it was the shadow of warships rising slowly into the dark sky, and that voice was louder than any words could ever be. The shadows that first appeared above Earth soon grew into shapes no one could deny, and the galaxy that once mocked humanity now stared in silence as the truth was revealed. The first clear images arrived from a scout vessel that barely escaped alive, its recordings shaky but undeniable. Warships, hundreds at first and then thousands, filled the orbit of Earth. They rose slowly, one by one, from hidden docks and massive shipyards that no one had ever noticed before. Their designs were unlike anything the council had seen, sharp and angular, built with a purpose that left no doubt of their strength. These were not ships of trade or peace, these were ships of war. Their armor gleamed black and silver, reflecting the light of the sun like blades, and their engines glowed with the steady fire of discipline. Some were small and fast, shaped like daggers ready to strike, while others were colossal, moving fortresses that could swallow fleets whole. And they were organized, not scattered or clumsy, but moving in formations as if they had trained for years unseen. The galaxy could hardly breathe as the news spread. In the council chamber, the recordings were played again and again, each time leaving the rulers in silence longer than before. One elder finally whispered, "This is not the fleet of a young world. This is the fleet of a power that has prepared for war. Outside the chamber, panic began to grow. On distant colonies, citizens gathered in fear, pointing to the sky as if human ships might appear at any moment. Markets crashed, leaders argued, and entire systems demanded answers. How had Earth built such a fleet without anyone knowing? How had a single world forged enough steel to darken its own skies? Some said the humans had traded in secret, stealing resources from the edge of the galaxy. Others said they mined their own world to the bone, sacrificing everything for the fleet that now hovered above them. Whatever the truth, one fact was clear: humanity had chosen silence not because it was weak, but because it was preparing. The warships were the answer to every summons, every demand, every threat the Council had sent for over a century. And that answer was terrifying. Reports continued to flow, showing even more ships emerging from the dark side of the planet and from the shadow of the moon. Massive carriers carried smaller vessels, destroyers slid into formation, and great battleships spread their wings like giants ready to strike. The number kept rising until no one dared to count anymore. The Council was frozen between rage and fear. Some leaders screamed for immediate attack, their pride wounded by the sight of human power, but even as they shouted their voices shook with doubt. Others argued that an attack now would be suicide, that the galaxy should seek peace before the fleet moved beyond Earth. Yet peace seemed impossible, for humanity had spoken without words, and their message was clear. We are ready, we are watching, we are not afraid. In the outer systems, rumors spread that the human fleet was already on the move, preparing to expand beyond their home star. Traders swore they saw vessels slipping quietly into deep space, too fast to follow, too silent to track. Fear became a constant companion for every world, because no one knew where the humans would strike, or if they would strike at all. That uncertainty was worse than war, for it left the galaxy waiting in dread. Meanwhile, in the orbit of Earth, the fleet continued to grow. Lights burned on their hulls, weapons gleamed in silence, and the ships moved like predators circling their prey. From the surface of the planet, billions of humans watched as their warships filled the sky, and their silence was not fear but pride. They had built in secret, they had prepared in shadows, and now the galaxy could see their true face. Humanity had no need to shout, no need to threaten. The sight of their fleet was enough to shake the stars. And so the galaxy waited, the Council waited, and every species waited, their hearts filled with a single question: what would humanity do next? The galaxy held its breath as the human fleet darkened the skies above Earth, thousands of warships gleaming like steel giants waiting for command, and though the Council had demanded answers for more than a century, none expected how humanity would finally choose to speak. For days the warships remained in silence, holding their positions, a wall of power that seemed to stretch forever. Then, without warning, every ship lit its engines at once, their glow piercing the void, and a single transmission cut through the silence of space, carried on every frequency, translated into every language known to the stars. The voice was human, deep and steady, without fear and without apology. We heard every summons, it said. We received every demand. We chose silence, not because we were weak, but because we were preparing. You called us to kneel, but we do not kneel. You threatened us with fleets, but we built fleets of our own. And now, we answer. Across the galaxy, worlds froze as those words reached them. Farmers stopped their work in the fields of green moons, miners laid down their tools in the caverns of frozen asteroids, soldiers looked up at the sky as if expecting ships to arrive above their heads. In the council chamber, the leaders sat in heavy silence, their pride crushed by the weight of the human voice. Some trembled with rage, others with fear, but none dared to interrupt the message. The voice continued, calm but sharp like a blade. For centuries you treated Earth as if it were nothing. You called us primitive, you called us weak, but we watched, we listened and we learned. We do not seek war, but we will not be ruled. We do not seek conquest, but we will not bow. The time of silence is over. The time of humanity has begun. As the last words echoed through the stars, the transmission ended, but the fleet above Earth remained, glowing brighter, shifting into tighter formation, a show of discipline and power that no empire could dismiss. Across alien cities panic erupted, markets collapsed, and riots began as ordinary citizens feared invasion. In the chambers of power, rulers gathered in secret, their faces pale with the truth they could no longer deny. Humanity was not a child to be ordered, it was a rival to be respected or destroyed. Some called for peace, desperate to avoid a war they knew they could not win, while others whispered of alliances and hidden weapons that might give them a chance. But deep inside their hearts they understood the truth. Earth had spoken, and its voice was stronger than all their threats. The council tried to respond, sending messages of negotiation, of compromise, of power, but none of their words carried weight anymore. Every being in the galaxy remembered the human fleet, stretching across the sky like a storm ready to break, and every being remembered the voice that said humanity does not kneel. For the first time in generations the council felt powerless, its authority shattered by a species it once mocked. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, humans stood together under the shadow of their own fleet, millions watching the night sky as it burned with the light of their warships. They did not cheer loudly, they did not boast, for they knew their message had already shaken the galaxy. Instead they stood in silence, proud and united, ready for whatever came next. In the void beyond, alien fleets that had once surrounded human space began to retreat, their commanders unwilling to test the strength of a force they could not measure. The galaxy had demanded Earth's surrender, but Earth had given them something far more terrifying: defiance. And though no shot had yet been fired, every ruler, every soldier, every citizen across the stars understood a new truth. Humanity was no longer a question to be debated, it was an answer that could not be ignored. The galaxy was never the same after the human voice echoed across the stars, and though no fleet had yet fired a single shot, the silence that followed was heavier than any battle. The warships above Earth held their positions like a wall of iron, engines glowing, weapons ready, and every eye in the galaxy turned toward them with fear and awe. In the council chamber the rulers sat in silence, their pride shattered, their power shaken, and none dared to speak the truth aloud. Humanity had changed the balance of the universe without moving beyond their own skies. The galaxy had demanded Earth's surrender, but Earth had answered with defiance, and that defiance now shook the stars themselves. Across distant worlds children asked their parents why the humans were so strong, why they were not afraid of the council, and no parent could give an answer. Soldiers who had once believed the council was unstoppable now looked at their rifles and wondered if they would matter against the human fleet. Traders who had mocked Earth in old stories now whispered in fear that business routes would one day pass under the shadow of human warships. The message from Earth repeated in their minds: "We do not kneel, we do not bow, we are ready." Those words became like fire, spreading faster than fleets could travel, burning away the illusion that the council controlled all. For centuries the galaxy had believed in the power of the council, but now that faith cracked like glass, and from those cracks came doubt and fear. Some rulers tried to deny it, saying the humans would not dare attack, but deep in their hearts they remembered the images of thousands of ships rising from orbit, each one a blade of steel pointed toward the stars. Some called for alliances, gathering old enemies into fragile agreements, hoping unity could stand against Earth if war came. Others whispered of surrender, saying it was wiser to respect humanity before humanity decided respect was no longer enough. And yet, despite the fear, despite the chaos, the humans did not move. Their fleets remained above their world, watching, waiting, silent as ever. That silence was worse than war, because no one knew if the next day would bring peace or fire. Entire empires lived in dread of a single order that might send human warships across the stars, and every commander knew their fleets were untested against such a storm. On Earth itself the people looked up at their sky filled with warships and felt no fear, only unity. They had been ignored and insulted, but their silence had been their shield, their patience their weapon, and now the galaxy knew the cost of underestimating them. Humanity had risen not with words but with steel, and that steel made even the oldest powers tremble. The council met again and again, but their debates no longer mattered, for their authority had been broken. The galaxy did not look to them anymore, the galaxy looked to Earth. And Earth remained silent, letting its fleet speak louder than any words. Across the stars, from golden palaces to frozen mines, one truth echoed: humanity had stepped onto the stage of the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget the sound of its arrival. No empire could erase that moment, no ruler could undo it. The humans had chosen their path, and that path made the stars tremble.